The economy is under pressure, and companies are having to work harder than ever to stay relevant. This means that all employees need to work harder and be more productive. Productivity is no longer just what we produce, but how efficient we produce the product. The physical output gives us what the person has produced, but not necessarily what they did throughout the day. Traditionally, we would measure how long somebody was at work and what they produced, but this is not necessarily the case anymore, as computers are often doing a lot of the work that people were doing.
Graham, what do you mean by productivity and efficiency, and why is each one relevant?
Once again, productivity is normally measured as an output rather than how efficient somebody was. Efficiency is how quickly you produced the product, and did you waste time doing things that you weren't necessary to do when you were producing the product. Just because I go out and I produce 10 things doesn't mean I was productive. In the past, we would have a look and say, well, he was at work for 10 hours and he produced 10 items. That means he produced one item per hour. Actually, he only produced one item per half hour. The rest of the time was wasted doing non-efficient things. This is where efficiency comes in. And KPIs in the past were just set, including all these inefficiencies. And people never tried to increase the KPIs because in the past, these worked, they produced 10 items, and that's what they got. If we just start increasing efficiencies, people will then be able to start producing 11 items in the 10 hours, moving on to 12, and so it will grow. So if you have a look at the KPIs, you take the inefficiencies, and you adjust the KPIs according to the inefficiencies, you can now start improving, using the KPIs, the output, i.e. the productivity, by increasing the efficiency. Different people have different roles and profiles. So a developer in one area may have different levels of work to a developer in another area. You need to profile the different people and understand what they should be producing and doing in order to produce this. Once you understand that, you can ask how efficient is this person. We're not saying take away all their free time or going and having a look at internet banking. People need to do things that are people orientated, or they become very frustrated at work. But spending all day on the bank site or spending all day having coffee and talking becomes a problem. This is where efficiencies can be improved, and this is where we'll be able to help you.
So how do you decide what is productive and what is efficient and what is neither?
It's very difficult. You've got to build that for your company. A Windows Media Player may be considered inefficient, but for a sound guy, he may look at Windows Media Player every day. Put him into the right profile and say, Windows Media Player in this profile is efficient. Windows Media Player in a developer's profile is not necessarily efficient, but he may enjoy listening to the music while he devs. So don't stop him using it, but just take note and say, don't spend 10 hours choosing your song to listen to while you're working.
Okay. So how would a company go about doing this? In the real practical world?
What we generally do is we set the system up and allow them to start producing. The company knows who they believe are productive workers. Note, I didn't say efficient, productive workers, and those who aren't. You have a look at your productive workers and see how they are working. See what apps they're using. See what they're doing throughout their day. Are they taking breaks? Because taking no breaks can lead to non-productivity as well, that people get tired. So you have a look at their profile and you start looking at your non-productive people's profile and start merging the two. Don't merge it so your productive people come down. Bring the non-productive people up. And you can now create a profile. Just because somebody is not productive doesn't mean everything they do is bad. there may be some things that they do that make it good. Have a look at both profiles through the system and choose the best of everything. Then take the mark that you've got and try and improve on that. So your mark is your productivity. I have a productivity of 10. Now I've created this new profile and guided people on how to work. You've given your most productive person a bit of guidance and said, you know what, if you just do this a little bit differently, you may increase your productivity. And you go to the non-productive person and give him a whole lot of guidance and say, if you did this differently, you would increase your productivity. Let them run at working like this for a while, and then take another mark and say, has my productivity increased or decreased? Now you can tell that the guidance you've given them has increased it. This is where you can start changing your KPIs. In this way, you can start saying, building a profile that matches your company, not necessarily your company, but your individual. So profiles help you build the individual, not only the company. By building all your individuals and the groups of individuals, your company will improve. KPIs in the past have just been, you need to deliver 10. The one guy comes in, he delivers 10 in an hour, and he's met the KPI. He could have produced you a lot more and been a lot more efficient. The next guy comes in, he takes 11 hours to produce 10, but he's working as hard as he can. You're going to have a problem with him because he hasn't met that hard and fast KPI. You're just going to say, you didn't meet the KPI. It's a problem. But now go and have a look at why he's not meeting the KPI. Is he using the wrong tools? Is he taking too many breaks? Are people disturbing him? Now you have something to look at, which enables you to help him meet what you believe is your KPI by adjusting his KPIs and saying, by doing the following, you can now meet our need of producing.
So as an added advantage, could you use T-Stroke for software testing and licensing?
Yes, we've actually had a company that was asked to test some software. They gave it to 5 users and said, please see if this will help you with your work and your efficiency. Time went by and nothing seemed to change. They said the software hadn't really helped them. But what in fact had happened is they hadn't used it. People don't like change. So what happened is they just left the software on the side and carried on using the old software. They carried on using Excel and Word instead of using the package that had been designed specifically for them. When the owner of the company came and had a look and said, why don't you like it? There was 100 excuses. When we had a look at Tistro, they actually hadn't used the software. They hadn't given the software a chance to actually help them be efficient. They were just anti the change. So they were just saying, no, it didn't work. Now the manager, the owner of the company, could turn around and say, but you guys haven't even tried it. The most time that somebody spent in it was half an hour. How can you judge software in that time? There's other added advantages to having Tistro. Someone wants to come along and ask you for new software or more licenses of a software. You can have a look at what licenses you have and how many people are actually using it. Too often in our days, people just install the software, use it for an hour, and then never use it again. That license is then held and not being able to be used. If you just take that license off that computer and supply it to somebody else, you don't necessarily need to go and buy new licenses. So Tistro can help you in many cases with testing of software. Did the people actually give it a thorough testing? But also your licensing. Someone comes and they do an audit on you, you can actually just go into Tistro and see how many people used a specific software, and should you keep this software on, if it's only being used 1 hour a year, why pay for an expensive license